Well, 5 years ago, if you had said that you had sworn off gluten, most people would have asked, what's gluten? But not anymore. Now supermarkets have gluten-free aisles and restaurants offer gluten-free dishes. Take a look.
Dr. Arthur Agatston is the creator of the South Beach diet. He says 50% of Americans have a gluten sensitivity, but not everyone needs to give it up permanently. In his latest research, Dr. Agatston answers questions about gluten in the South Beach Diet Gluten Solution and shares what changes, if any, you need to make to feel great fast.
Well, please welcome back to the 700 Club, Dr. Arthur Agatston. It's great to have you back with us.
Great to be back with you, Terry.
Well, we loved hearing about the South Beach Diet, and now you've written the South Beach Diet Gluten Solution. First of all, let's start by talking about what is gluten.
Gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, rye, and it's different than the protein found in rice, in meat, in that it's difficult to digest. And because of the way we cook foods, we prepare foods, preservatives, because of pills we take, pain relievers, antibiotics, we're not digesting it as well as our grandparents, great-grandparents. And that's the reason why today so many Americans are having gluten problems.
You know, when you mention all of those things, you think it's a wonder everybody doesn't. Why do some people react some people really react significantly, and others don't seem bothered by it at all?
Well, it is our ability to digest, which it's somewhat genetic, but also it's the amount of processed food we're getting, which determines the amount of gluten we're getting, and taking these other medications. Sometimes a lot of people, after taking a course of antibiotics, the antibiotics in our guts help us, the bacteria in our guts help us digest gluten. When we kill bacteria with antibiotics, we kill off good bacteria as well as bad bacteria.
So you can have done well for a long time and then take this course of antibiotics and have it trigger this.
Yes, and it's the same with certain pain relievers can hurt us. And also, when we prepare foods, we used to ferment foods, and that was why bakers got up in the middle of the night and prepared. Now they don't do it because there's quick rise dough. And the fermentation also helped pre-digest gluten. So we're on gluten overload. We're just being overwhelmed with gluten. We're not digesting it, and when it's not digested well, it plays havoc with our bodies.
Talk about that a little bit, Dr. Agatston. Like, how do I know if I have a gluten problem?
Well, there's 1% of the population, about 3 million Americans, have the extreme of a gluten problem called celiac disease. There is a blood test for that, and that's often with abdominal pain, but in other abdominal problems. But it can present in other ways, from headaches to arthritis. Probably about 50%, I believe, or more, of the viewers watching right now, though, have a problem with gluten sensitivity.
Really?
Yes, for which there is no test. It's a spectrum. They may get up in the morning feeling like they've been hit by a bus with headaches and stomach aches, sluggish, can't focus. That's one extreme. But others, like the famous tennis players, Djokovic, Murray, they just weren't winning long matches. They went off gluten, just got a big burst of energy and mental focus. So it's a big spectrum, and the only way to tell is to stop eating gluten for a while. It's very easy for a month or so. It's hard to be strict for a lifetime, but you don't necessarily have to be.
It is. I'm Scandinavian. You know, we love our bread.
Yes.
But it is a good way to check it out if you're feeling some of the symptoms that we're talking about here. Get a hold of this book and try it out. You talk about being gluten-aware versus gluten-phobic. What do you mean by that?
Yes, and we mentioned the 1% of the population that has the extreme celiac disease, for which there are blood tests. They have to be gluten-phobic. Just a crumb of bread is going to make them sick. But for the rest of us, with this spectrum of different degrees of gluten sensitivity, say you just have headaches, you just you're tired, you just have to be gluten aware. You have to avoid the major sources of gluten, the breads, pasta. We're gonna look at some of that now. If you have celiac disease, you have to be absolutely strict, avoid all hidden sources. But for most of the rest of us, we all have a different tolerance, and that's what the book tells you, how to find your own tolerance for gluten.
Well, you mentioned looking at what we have here, and I just want to say, folks, don't panic, because we do have some options for you if you find that this might be an issue that you deal with. Let's start down here with looking at what is gluten-filled.
And this is the pasta, bread, it's baked goods. These are the big sources of gluten. And we always said none of this on the first phase of our South Beach diet. And we expected people to lose weight. What we didn't expect them was to have arthritis and headaches and their skin clear up. The arthritis headaches go away, their skin clear up. And that was a surprise. I eventually realized it was gluten.
Gluten-related. Mustard?
Now, mustard, soy sauce, these are hidden sources.
Oh, my goodness.
It's, gluten is ubiquitous. It's even in lipstick and toothpaste, believe it or not. But if you have to be gluten aware, you have to worry about this, but not so much the hidden sources. If you have celiac disease, the 1% of the population, you have to be a gluten detective. You have to worry about these as well.
So those are gluten-filled. These are gluten-free, right?
Yes, and this is showing you do not have to be overly restricted. You can have a great varied diet. We have the chickpea flour here, used in a lot of things, including in hummus, which is really healthy,
hummus,
a lot of protein. Brown rice.
We know that's better for us anyway, right?
Yes. Yes, and we have quinoa here, which is it's the equivalent of a whole grain. So you're not even giving up whole grains.
I actually love quinoa, though most people, if you didn't grow up with it, don't really know what to do with it. But it's an excellent grain.
You can do a lot with it. It's excellent grain and really, really healthy.
Yogurt, great for you, right?
Absolutely fine. And the fruits and vegetables that we've always recommended on South Beach. That's why the first phase was gluten-free. And this has just had the variety of nutrients that keep us healthy, and they're absolutely, completely gluten-free.
And this time of the year, of course, you can get those, and they are fabulous. So it's a great time.
And variety is important. Don't just depend on one. They're all great individually, but it's the variety that'll make you healthy.
And now, the part people have been waiting for, if I can't have all those wonderful things I liked on the right side, let's go to the left side and show them that they have some options.
Yes, and here we have some buckwheat pancakes with some apple. And buckwheat is not made of wheat, surprisingly. It's a plant, and it's whole grain. It makes great pancakes and other baked goods, but it has no wheat, even though wheat is in the name.
Spaghetti?
Squash. This is squash spaghetti, which I love, and meatballs. It could be turkey meatballs. And there's also quinoa pasta. And so you really don't have to suffer.
Some of this, it strikes me, is just letting go of the old and embracing the new psychologically.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, you often feel better within just a few days, but certainly in weeks. And the types of cases we saw, and again, it was the first phase of the South Beach diet, we expected people to lose weight, but not have this boost of energy, and they didn't want to go to the second phase, often where they added whole grains. And they eat great, and they feel great, and they stay healthy. They stay avoiding the processed carbohydrates for years because they just feel so good.
It's worth the sacrifice to them.
Some people don't care about preventing diabetes or a heart attack in 10 years, but they care how they feel, feeling better today and tomorrow.
Well, let's talk about this because it looks like chocolate.
Well, that's I'm an admitted chocoholic, and chocolate is looking better and better. It has some chemicals called polyphenols. I shouldn't say chemicals. They're good for our vessels. They lower blood pressure, and that doesn't mean you can't have too much chocolate, but the cocoa bean is absolutely gluten-free.
Now, how did you do this gluten? Oh, you did this.
This was made with a brown rice flour. And so it's a whole grain. In this case, the proteins in rice are easy to digest, unlike gluten, and so you can have your chocolate
These look
cupcakes.
Delicious, really, and I think it's so encouraging to people. I do know some friends who have struggled with gluten, and you're willing to make some sacrifices to feel wonderful again, and it's all right here for you in the South Beach Diet Gluten Solution. You'll want to get Dr. Agatston's book. It's available where books are sold. There's not just hope, there's good, tasty alternatives that you can still enjoy food with and still be your old self, have all the good, healthy feelings that we all like to have. Thank you. It's great
be
to have
with
you back again.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
work. The book
Thank
is
you.
awesome, filled with incredible information. You're going to love it. So be sure you get your copy.